In this section, we're going to look at solving quadratic equations. This is actually something that we've already done in the past. We've solved equations of the form x squared plus bx plus c equals 0 by factoring and solving. But now we're going to introduce something that's referred to as the quadratic formula, which will allow us to solve equations like that one we just wrote out, and also equations of the form ax squared plus bx plus c equal to 0. The difference being that coefficient a in front of our x squared term can be 1 or some other number. And at least in this course, we haven't looked at how to factor quadratic equations when that leading coefficient is something besides 1. This formula does have one restriction though, which is that a cannot be 0. So that leading coefficient needs to be some non-zero value. And if so, then the solutions to this equation will be given as x equals opposite of b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac. All of that divided by 2a, which then lets us see where that restriction comes from, that a cannot equal 0. Since this is a quadratic expression, the denominator cannot equal 0. So a cannot be equal to 0. Built into this expression is something that we refer to as the discriminant, which is that expression b squared minus 4ac. If that expression under that square root sign is greater than 0, then that means we'll have two real solutions. That is, we'll have two solutions. Both of those solutions will be real numbers. If that discriminant is exactly equal to 0, then we'll have one real solution. And if the discriminant, that value under the radical, is something less than 0, then we'll have no real solutions. There are technically solutions that still exist, but that gets into complex or imaginary numbers if you've seen those before. If not, nothing to worry about. But we'll only have real solutions in the case where the value under that radical is either greater than 0 or equal to 0. If we end up with something less than 0, then we end up taking the square root of a negative number, say like the square root of -2, which doesn't exist in the real numbers.